to kill American soldiers and coalition forces in Afghanistan. There have been lots of denials, and the president on Twitter this morning called this just another phony Times hit job and demanded that the paper reveal its anonymous sources whose existence he doubts. Griff Jenkins, another classic confrontation with the press over unnamed sources, and I should mention that sources have since confirmed the story to the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and CNN.
You know, what's troubling, really, Howie, in all of this is that in the White House's denial, in the president's tweet as well today, the denial is that he was specifically briefed about it. He doesn't deny outright that the bounties were made, and I think really that's now going to create a problem for them because, again, you now got to walk all this back. If the intelligence community didn't brief the NSC in the White House, that's a problem. If the NSC was briefed and didn't tell the president, as he says, he, Vice President Pence, and Chief of Staff Meadows was not told, that's a problem too. But it's really opened up a bit of an issue here that we're going to hear a lot more about.
Right. Molly Hemingway, the Times story says the National Security Council has discussed this issue and debated options on responding to Putin, which would suggest there's some substance to the story.
Well, actually, it's impossible to know because it's anonymous sources making claims. And I kind of question why people keep believing the New York Times when it claims anonymous intel sources about anything. This is the same paper, and in some cases, the very same reporters who published the completely false and ridiculous Russia collusion hoax for many years. Now, taking a step back, it's unlikely that you're going to get confirmation or denial from intelligence sources on something like this. You might remember a couple of months ago when the media claimed falsely they had received a leak, but they claimed that Kim Jong-un was brain dead or had been killed. And or had died, and that was just not true. But you didn't have intelligence sources confirming or denying it. You just had them not commenting. So not commenting doesn't necessarily mean anything. In this case, you've got intelligence that you collect, and then you have to analyze it. And you really have to come to a high degree of confirmation. You might remember how our intel community really believed there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and they went to the UN even with this.
I remember vividly, but let me get.
And so we should be very careful when we take leaky officials at their word.
Right. Jessica, as I said, other news organizations confirming the story. It doesn't mean it's true, unnamed sources. But as Griff mentioned, the main journalistic criticism I'm hearing now is if the president wasn't briefed, if he's telling the truth, why not? And that is a major issue.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the questions that Liz Cheney is asking on Twitter this morning. So either he knew and he and President Pence are lying about that, or he didn't know, and how is that possible? At the end of the day, we need to make sure that Vladimir Putin is not part of the G8. That's something that President Trump had wanted. He's palling around with him, and I understand that Putin likes him better than Trudeau likes him or Boris Johnson likes him. But you can't be friends with autocrats. You can't be friends with dictators who kill Americans. And to Molly's point about the, quote, Russia collusion hoax, Bob Mueller and his team would take huge issue with that. That is not what the Mueller report said, Molly.
All right. Well, we debated that millions of times. I want to get to this video that President retweeted this morning. It's of a clash of protesters at the Villages in Florida, and it shows one guy in a golf cart with Trump campaign stickers shouting "White Power" at some anti-Trump supporters, and the president wrote, "Thank you to the great people of the Villages. Radical left do nothing. Democrats will fall in the fall. Corrupt Joe is shot." The president, just at the beginning of our program, deleted this tweet under sharp criticism, Molly. Journalists are kind of depicting this as endorsing racism.
Well, this is a great example of media being factual without being accurate. Not that it's a tweet that he should have tweeted or put up. It appeared to show someone sarcastically responding to someone accusing him of holding this individual of holding these views by sarcastically saying he did. And this is something where this is a very big issue right now, and we need the media to really do a good job rather than provoke racial conflict. You have a lot of people advocating hatred toward white people, or you have responses like this, and it needs to be very careful. I think the media seem to want to provoke conflict rather than to remind people that this is a wonderful country where people get along very well, and where we are, we are the best country in the world on some of these things.
But Jessica, the president, as I said, deleting this tweet after the only black Republican senator, Tim Scott, told CNN this was indefensible and should take it down. But as far as the media making a big deal out of it, it's the president who put this into play with the tweet. He kind of handed the press a story.
Yeah, he's his worst enemy when it comes to social media, and we've seen that time and time again. He also doesn't seem to pay a lot of attention to the things that he is tweeting. We've seen this when the anti-Semitic tropes end up on his Twitter account, Don Jr.'s as well, his son, and then they play dumb about it. Oh, what are you talking about? I didn't know that that was anti-Semitic. The president needs to be the adult in the room. It's clear that he can't handle that. Someone needs to take his phone away. We've been discussing that for years at this point. But for Molly to say, oh, they didn't get the depth of this, it was sarcasm. White power is never a joke. And for Molly to say, oh, this is a country where we all get along, I don't know what country Molly's living in at this moment when you look at what is happening on the streets after the murder of George Floyd.
Hold on. Okay, hold on, please. Molly, I got to give you 10 seconds to respond.
No, I'm just saying that the accurate story about America is one where it is the most free and wonderful and prosperous country for people of all races. And that's the story that needs to be told rather than hyping conflict that people have. Yes, human nature is bad and there will be bad instances, but we don't want to neglect the overarching story of why so many people love this country and want to come here.
All right. Well, I'm glad the president deleted the tweet. Molly Hemingway, Jessica Tarloff, Griff Jenkins, thanks for